When I was really young, I started off babysitting and I started off working with day camps, and I started to develop like, oh, I like kids. They're a lot easier than working with adults. And then I entered college and I changed my major a couple of times. I wanted to get an education, and then I realized there's a lot of young kids out there that have, emotional problems, have family issues. And knowing that I witnessed it as a kid, with some of my siblings having issues, I felt like, oh, they need someone to help the families and help the kids go through something like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. And I changed my major to sociology, and I really wanted to do social work. Then after going through the program and starting working at St. Catherine's Center for Children, working with the younger population, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked, being mobile and, really get involved. I decided that I wanted to work not on such a, behind the desk kind of thing. I wanted to get out and really work with the families and the children and their behavior issues. And then I came to LaSalle to work with an older population to give me the experience of working with different age groups. I work with a age group between, I would say, 15 to 21. They're males, young men, kind of have behavior issues such as, school, being able to stay in school, relationship issues with parents. Some have, drug issues. Some of them have been sexually abused and have also offended. So there's, from the littlest to the biggest, they're all dealing with something different. You have to start somewhere to break the bad habit, the pattern. And, I like to be that person that they, meet that's going to help them through their issues and their problems before they reach adulthood. So it's really important just to not be judgmental and to look past the fact that they have behavioral problems. Because once they start dealing with it and once they develop better decision-making and coping skills, they're going to be awesome. And most of them can have normal lives. These are with somebody's kids one time, and you have to look at it that they may not have had a good childhood, or they may not have been able to have the support that they needed, but they're going to be somebody's parent one day. And so we're teaching them that it doesn't all have to be bad. I work in independent living, so a typical day will come in as at 2:30, you pick the kids up at homeroom from school, and then usually you see who's working, who's not. You kind of see what the plan is as far as the rec for the day. If it's gym, bowling. If it's a day of cooking, we usually pull out the food and start cooking at around 4:30. Kids usually sign out, go to work. If there's any kids that need to go for job interviews, or they usually go do that. We usually take them, sometimes pick them up from work. So really it's kind of like going through a daily routine and kind of doing independent living skills, and just kind of what they really need help with. It's not so much where I kind of plan the day, it's kind of they plan the day, because it's their day, and it's teaching them time management, and it's teaching them how to entertain themselves as well. So that day is kind of based on what their needs are. The challenging parts are not taking things personal, because you do get wrapped up in it. You do get caught up in when you're here long shifts and long hours, and you're constantly dealing with, you're the only one that's dealing with everything, you can take it personal. You can say, hey, I'm trying the best that I can, and it's hard for them to see it that way. Can you work with me here? The other thing is communication amongst staff. And, when I'm not here all the time, and when I do come in, we have to communicate. We have to read the logbooks, and we just kind of have to read our emails. A lot of times people miss that one step, and it can cause a lot of issues when you don't communicate. I'm a big communicator, and that's very important to me, because if one little bit of information can help me get through the day, that's very important. The number one thing is knowing yourself, and then that you can go from there. You can say, I know myself, I know what triggers me, I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And a lot of times you can put some of that behind you, and sometimes you can't. When you realize you can't, then you realize you can't do the job. When you realize you can, then you can move forward. That's the first step. The second step is you're not going to get immediate gratification. You're not going to get immediate rewards. If you do something for them, you have to understand that they haven't had much to appreciate much. So when you do something, you can't expect the immediate appreciation. It has to be something that's given within time. So you have to be patient. The other thing is flexible. The day is not going to start when it's supposed to start, and the day is never going to end when it's supposed to end. And sometimes you're here when you're not supposed to be here, and sometimes you're here when you don't want to be here. So it's just being flexible. If you're a person that expects things to run accordingly all the time, probably not for you. You know, there's always going to be ups and downs, and you have to be prepared for anything and everything. I understand that not every kid is going to recognize what I'm doing at that time, but I know that when they're out there on their own, they're going to have that voice in their head that's going to be me, that's going to say, did you clean your room? And I know some people say, well, how do you know? Well, I've had kids, you know, who've given me the hardest time being here and go out there in the real world and go home and call me and say, just letting you know I'm okay. To me, that's the reward, because they knew that I cared. Even if they make the bad decisions and they make mistakes, you know, at least they knew that when they were here, I cared and that I showed them. And that it wasn't that I'm here for just the job or I'm here for just the paycheck, because it goes beyond that. I just want to really, you know, emphasize that it's very important to not be judgmental. You know, people have judged them their whole life, and then they start to believe it, and then they start to live by it, and it's hard for them to change it. They have to look at, they're human beings, they have feelings, you know, and they need to be treated like that. And I know it's difficult to look beyond their mistakes, but until we do, we're not going to change the behavior. And I'm glad that I'm that person that can look at them from a different view and help them. And that's all I'm trying to do.